All right. So we are now live on Usapang Musiko Season 2. All right. So how has been the holidays going for you guys? I hope everyone's safe and sound. No? And I think it's the best time to actually take a break from everything that's been going on. No? And it's almost the new year. Hoping that everything actually becomes a bit better for the coming uh, year for 2021. All right. So, going back to our topic for today, and also pala, I just made this early live stream because I have a lot of things to work on and then yeah, afternoon later. Okay. So, we always talk about is it too late to start learning the violin? And we've answered that with a big no. It's never too late. I mean, in general, learning any instrument, no, it's never too late. You just have to adjust your expectations depending on how old you are. And yeah, age is really just a number when it comes to music because you can retire anytime you want. No, unlike traditional work where you need to retire at certain points in your life because you're not going to be effective enough. No? But in music, it's different. You can play as long as you can still breathe, maybe, no? And even sing. It's something that's innate in the human mind and body. Music is always everywhere. And that's why it's never too late. Now, let's talk about how early can you start learning music, or especially for your kids, for those who have children who wants their kids to start learning music. No, when is the best time? Now, I'm speaking on my experiences here in the Philippines and how some of the people actually start learning music at some might consider a bit too late now. No, some people here, I think the average age at which young students are starting to learn the instrument is around 5 or 6 years old. No, they want kasi that the children are already speaking, or I mean holding their pens, able to write before they start teaching them music. No, but if you look at it this way, a child is a sponge. No, the, a child will absorb whatever information you feed them. And if you feed them good information about music, I think they will be able to pick that up at earlier stages in their lives. Like we've seen a lot of young kids, I think some virtuosos even perform at the age of 2 or 3. No? They're already playing. And if we get to that level, I think we can safely say that it's also never too early to teach music to children or to anyone for that matter. No? So I think it's not because of the age, but because of how we were trained to teach children music. That's why we want them to be already speaking and I mean being able to write. Kasi we tend to think of music as somewhat of just something to supplement reading, writing, and math. No, we see music as a supplementary thing instead of having it as a basic necessity as well for children or even adults. No, we see music as more of a luxury, and we have to change that um, mindset that music is only for the rich or music is only for those who can afford music lessons. Because if we put in music as the same level as reading, writing, and whatever standard subjects you have in school, it shows that it can improve a lot of things that you can't really see on paper. right? We've seen researches of test results getting higher grades for students exposed to music or learning music at an earlier age. No, we just have to find also the right approach for certain age groups, because of course it's hard to teach these kids at 2 or 3 years old the same way you would teach a 4 or 5 year old already, just because they lack a lot of the communication skills needed to in order for you to convey your message to them. So it is a pretty different approach than what you're used to. So you have to also learn how to teach them that way. And I think that's what a lot of us lack. Even me, no, personally, I'm not um capable of teaching 2 or 3 year olds to learn the instrument, especially now at this narrative that we have. We teach online. It's going to be a headache. I'm telling you. Uh, if face to face is possible, I think it's possible to teach kids face to face at that early age, no? Because the proper guidance should come from the teacher, no? And for my experience, I started learning about music formally through my aunt, and I think I was around 5 or 6 years old when I started. So I started playing the violin at age 6. And before that, I was playing piano. I mean, I'm reading through books and stuff, but it's not really that formal to say. But I was playing through old method books when I was 5, just for fun. No? And then I really got into piano lessons when I was already 13. That's when I started to really get formal piano lessons. But I really started violin formally when I was 6 years old. So I would say I'm on the average when it comes to um, the time that I learned music. No, it's pretty average here in the Philippines, where you learn music way past the time that you were taught how to read or write. No, but in other countries, I think music is really an integral part of their educational system, and hopefully we could catch up with those things, no? It shows a lot of uh, help when it comes to those major subjects that we always talk about that are standard. And if we come to that point, I think it would be better for the whole of society as well, no? Because it's really a big impact on music. All right. Now, let's also talk about the importance of the people around children who wants to learn music, no? It's important that we note these things, no? If you want your children to really excel, first of all, they should like what they do. No? If they're pushed to the limit and they don't really benefit from learning it in their own way, no, they don't enjoy it, they don't feel fulfilled, or they're not eager to learn this. No? There's a lot of times when I see parents forcing their children to learn music. For example, the child wants to play the drums, but their parents don't want their children to play the drums. Why? Because maingay, no? They think it's too loud. It's not good. Play the piano instead. No, there are a lot of parents like that. But if they really don't like to play the piano, why would you force it to them? It would just it's either I play the drums or I don't play at all. That's how children think of it, diba? It's not there's no option. They don't want that. And by forcing them to play the piano instead, just make them hate it even more. So you have to really understand or assess your children's wants and what they want to do. And that's pretty important, no? It's very, very important that you take care of those things. And another thing is actually when children are learning at this early ages, they can't really be left alone with their teacher. Why? Because they're still super dependent on their parents for a lot of things that they do. Huh? So sometimes you may see children and think that, okay, my child is learning the violin with the teacher and I don't have to do anything else as a parent. This is very, very wrong. Why? Because the attention span of children are not that high. No? I mean, you need to take care of how much time they can focus on doing certain things. And by doing so, by guiding them through the journey that they have with music, will help them develop into better musicians in the long run. So it's not a set it and forget it type of investment for your child to give him lessons, but not actually follow up on those lessons. So I think for ages until right around 8 or 9, parent supervision while having lessons is a good thing. No? To have your child, to be with your child during these times that they are having lessons so that when you get back home, you know what they did, you know what the things to improve during their practices at home, and you can check on them. Because sometimes parents have this um, thing that, okay, I'll leave my child to their teacher, and then the next week I should see a great improvement. And then if you ask the parents, did your child practice this week? No, we had a lot of things to do. See? That's a problem. No? If you really want to start your child early, make sure you're holding them accountable to what they're doing. No? So I had this sad part of my childhood where, okay, my cousins would be at our home, they'll be playing, but I would have to practice before I go out. But the benefits will show itself when you go older, no? And you really have to encourage them to practice because an hour or 30 minutes of a session each week can only do so much. Diba? They have to absorb all this um what do you call this knowledge for them to really be better at the craft that they have. Even though we say that children are sponges, but a sponge can only hold in so much. So you should be feeding that knowledge to them in a constant way, in a constant manner, so that they can really grasp on what is really needed. And that's the role of a parent in times of lessons and learning those things. So it's not something you can just leave. Okay, I want my child to learn the violin. I'll get the best teacher possible and then let him do his thing. Get once a week lesson and we're done. He's gonna be better in a month. No, it's not gonna happen that way. Sorry to say, you have to go to the lessons, understand what the teacher is trying to do with your child, and then apply it at home. And that's the important thing. What happens at home, no? So the biggest factor is not the teacher you get at that early age, but the guidance of the parents or guardians of the child that's learning to actually understand what they are doing. So I think that's why then that we want our child to start music at an older age because it becomes a babysitting service instead, no? Parents drop by their children at the music school. They go out and then for errands, and then they come back and just ask the teacher, okay, what did they do? I mean, that's a good thing that you ask, but the best thing is to stay there, to observe what they're doing so that you can apply it at home, especially if you want to really start them early, like 2, 3 years old. Because as we've said, no, how can you practice if you don't know what you're doing? You need to be mindful of what you are always doing. And they can't be that mindful because their attention span is lower. So you have to feed it to them, what they need to do, what they need to understand, so that they can learn a lot more. Right? That's the thing. Um, my parents weren't really formally educated in music. I think my dad had piano lessons as a young kid as well, and my mom sings, but they were always there during my lessons. They would always uh, be present, and that presence, knowing that they know what you're doing, holding me accountable for what I should be doing. You should be practicing this piece because you're not practicing it too much. No, some things like that. They tell me, okay, why don't you play your etudes too much, or those kinds of things. No, you have to also know what your child is playing. No, they know my pieces when I was young. Literally, they know the title of everything that I play, and by doing so, they see that, or they also have this track of my progress when I was learning. And that's the important thing, is to also track the progress of your child if he really wants it. Okay. So the parents are really the biggest factors if you want to start young. And now let's talk about the benefits and dangers of starting at a pretty young age. Okay. First benefit, we all know that music can really help, not just in the basic major subjects, but in other types of art forms as well. And it heightens senses, no, when you're learning, especially a musical instrument. The ears are trained well, your feeling or touch is trained well too, and also the muscles. So you're training a lot of things that aren't really directly training it by learning music, but because you're learning these skills, maybe you can write better, or you can write faster because your fingers are more agile. You can carry bigger loads at an earlier age because you've always been carrying your violin, for example. No, what else? um you can hear certain things from farther away than other people. No? You can see clearly because you're you're used to looking at small notes from a distance. Diba? So your senses are heightened because of these things. And starting them at an early age will give the body more awareness of the movements that they do. And eventually add up and into your basic understanding of life itself. That's a good thing, right? Another thing is that, of course, if you want to take it as a career, you have more experience than other people. Taking into consideration that you had good teachers from the start that really pushed you into becoming a great musician. No. But again, that is not really, it's going to be subjective. But having that longer time of learning it can give a lot of benefits, diba? You have a better understanding of what things you are doing, and it can pay off earlier than just starting at a later age. But it's gonna vary from people how much time they spent really learning the craft, and of course, the talent that they really have. But I would take any advantage for that, right? Now, so those are the things that are good. How about the bad things? Let's not say bad. Let's just say that it's a downside. No. Sometimes kasi we push our children to the limit. No. We tend to push them without really understanding or knowing how much we need to nudge them for them to move forward. So sometimes when you've been playing for like 15 years from your childhood, you don't enjoy it anymore. I hear a lot of stories like this. Like they don't want to make it as a career because it's been their life the whole uh time, no? Parang they remember it that when they started talking, they're already playing and then still make it as a career, no? Sometimes they get burned out. And this is quite common, I think, for a lot of those people who are starting to learn it at an early age. So you don't really expect everyone to be a professional musician, or you don't expect everyone to really take on that career path because there's a ton of things to do in life. But as I've said before, music is something that they can take away from you. Even though you didn't pursue it as a career, you can still learn an instrument, play an instrument for fun, to express yourself, and it's not a bad thing, no, at all. It's a skill set that you might find useful at a certain point in your life. And to have that advantage is still an advantage, to say the least. All right. So those are the things that can be, I can't say dangerous, but a downside of starting early. What else is that if you don't get proper training, you might develop certain habits because, of course, you can't really communicate that well if you start early. So maybe at a young age, you were taught that your bowing should go like this, or you have a different bowing technique growing up, and then you hit, you've been accustomed to that thing, and when someone tells you another thing, diba, you're so engrossed to that technique that you don't want to change it. And it happens a lot of times. And the effect is that you feel that you've wasted a lot of your time learning something that is not beneficial to you. But in reality, it's not like that. It's just that it's a different approach on the certain thing that you are doing. And it's not something that you can say that it's wrong, but it just maybe something is better than your technique right now. And it's a hard thing to do. No? My teacher told me before, because I started early and I went into college with a lot of, I can say, bad habits, that my teacher told me sometimes it's better to build a new house than to renovate an old one. And it's true, no? It's a hard thing to change something that's ingrained into your system for so long in just a smaller amount of time. Because imagine, I started playing at 6, and let's say I got into college at the age of 17. So that's like 11 years of my life has been wasted because I've been doing something different, a different technique for that matter. So, how can I accept those things? It's also an important factor. So, it's really dangerous. So, you have to really, as parents, no, you have to really guide your children. And the burden shouldn't always be on the teacher. It's a three-way thing, no? The parent, the teacher, and the student should all learn to grow with each other and uplift each other's skills, spirits, and of course, give them the value that they need, the knowledge that they need, so that they can use it as they grow older. All right. John Denver Arizala, not practicing squad here. You better practice. You better practice. All right. So I guess I'll end this episode of Usapang Musiko here. Hopefully you gained a lot of new things, new knowledge from this episode. And I want to greet everyone a Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for all the support, especially on YouTube. We're almost at 1,000 subs. And please do stream my podcast on all major streaming platforms. This episode will come out on Friday. And please do check out all my content on all major platforms, music platforms. Check out my single, Someone, out now on Spotify. And follow me on all my socials. Links are down in the descriptions below. And I'll see you on the next one.